The movie opens with a breathtaking shot of the endless ocean under a golden sunrise, its waves shimmering like liquid fire. It's serene, almost hypnotic, until the camera pans down into the deep, where shadows of creatures glide ominously in the cold blue abyss. Jonas Taylor, a man who has survived the impossible more times than he cares to remember, finds himself once again at the frontier of the unknown. This time, however, it's not just about survival. It's about discovery and maybe redemption. Jonas is now leading an expedition funded by a powerful global marine consortium. Over the years, the trench has become an obsession for scientists and corporations alike, each trying to unlock its mysteries. The lure of untapped resources, ancient secrets, and unparalleled biodiversity has turned this once feared zone into a hotbed of human activity. Jonas, though initially reluctant, is pulled back into the fray. His head's name carries weight. He's not just a survivor but a legend, though he doesn't see himself that way. As Jonas prepares for the mission, we get a glimpse into his world. The camera lingers on him in a rare quiet moment, staring at an old photograph of himself with his late wife. It's a subtle nod to the toll his underwater battles have taken on his personal life. He knows the risks of diving back into the trench, but something deeper, perhaps a sense of duty, perhaps an unspoken need to make peace with his past, drives him. The crew of the expedition is a mix of seasoned experts and wide-eyed rookies, each bringing their own quirks and motivations. There's Mac, Jonas' loyal friend and comic relief, who tries to lighten the mood with his sarcastic quips. There's Mei Ling, a marine biologist whose passion for the ocean is infectious, even if it occasionally blinds her to thick dangers. And then there's Dr. Jody Lee, a brilliant but ambitious scientist whose unflinching curiosity borders on recklessness. Jonas, ever the pragmatist, clashes with Jody from the start. They're dynamic, hinting at tensions that will escalate as the story unfolds. The mission begins with a descent into the trench aboard a state-of-the-art submersible, equipped with cutting-edge technology. The descent is nerve-wracking, the pressure outside the vessel increasing with every passing meter. The crew's banter fades into tense silence as the light from the surface vanishes, replaced by the eerie glow of bioluminescent creatures. It's a hauntingly beautiful sight, but the darkness is oppressive, a reminder of how little humans truly belong here. When the submersible reaches its destination, the team is awestruck. The trench floor is like an alien world, vast plains of hydrothermal vents, coral formations that look like frozen flames, and schools of fish that seem to shimmer with an internal light. But amid this wonder lies a foreboding silence, as if the ocean itself is holding its breath. The tranquility is shattered when a low rumbling sound reverberates through the submersible. At first the crew thinks it's an earthquake, common occurrence at these depths. But Jonas's instincts tell him otherwise. As the sound grows louder, the submersible's instruments go haywire, and the crew scrambles to regain control. Then, through the viewport, they see it. A fissure splitting open the ocean floor, releasing plumes of sediment and bubbles that rise like ghostly apparitions. From the fissure emerges a shadow, massive, menacing, and unmistakable. It's a megalodon, but unlike any Jonas has encountered before. Its pale, almost translucent skin reflects the faint light from the submersible, and its eyes, cold and calculating, seem to lock onto the far vessel. Jonas feels a chill run down his spine. This isn't just another predator. It's a survivor of the darkest depths, a creature perfectly adapted to the abyss. As the Meg retreats into the shadows, the crew is left shaken but unharmed. For now. Jonas radios the surface, his voice calm but firm. We've got a problem. And it's bigger than anything we've faced before. Neboro? The prologue ends with a wide shot of the trench, the fissure glowing faintly like a wound in the earth. The music swells with a mix of awe and dread, setting the stage for the perilous journey ahead. The events of the fissure opening send shockwaves, both literal and figurative, through the Marine Consortium's headquarters, a sprawling facility perched on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. The consortium is a conglomerate of scientists, tech moguls, and corporate sponsors, each with their own stake in the trench. To some, it's a scientific gold mine. To others, a Pandora's box best left unopened. Jonas finds himself in the middle of a tense debriefing as the footage from the submersible's encounter is reviewed. The albino Meg, its sheer size and ferocity, is replayed on massive screens. The room buzzes with a mix of excitement and fear. Some of the scientists can barely contain their awe, talking over each other about the significance of such a discovery. Others, especially the more cautious voices in the foul room, argue that this creature represents a catastrophic threat. Dr. Jody Lee is among the loudest voices advocating for further exploration. "This is history in the making," she exclaims, her voice rising above the din. "We're looking at a species that has survived untouched for millions of years. Think of what we can learn about evolution, adaptation, survival." Her eyes shine with a fervor that Jonas has come to recognize. He's seen it in others before, this unbridled passion that often blinds people to danger. Jonas, leaning against a wall with arms crossed, doesn't share her enthusiasm. "Think of what it can do if it gets out," he counters, his tone sharp but calm. "We've already seen how one of these things can decimate an ecosystem. Now imagine it's not just one, it's an entire population. The argument escalates. The consortium's financiers, represented by a slick corporate executive named Alan Drake, are quick to see dollar signs. With the right containment and research, Drake says smoothly, we could turn this into the greatest discovery of our century. Think of the patents, the pharmaceuticals, the bioengineering possibilities. And let's not forget the tourism potential. He smiles as if the ocean's deadliest predator could somehow be domesticated and displayed. Like an amusement park attraction, Jonas doesn't hold back. You can't slap a logo on a megalodon and call it a day, Drake. These things don't care about your profits or your profits. Containment strategies. The moment they're in open water, you've got a catastrophe on your hands. No. The room falls into a tense silence. It's clear that Jonas's words have struck a chord, but not everyone is willing to listen. Jody breaks the silence, her voice softer now but no less determined. Jonas, I get it. You've been through hell with these creatures. But if we don't study them, how do we protect ourselves? Closing on the trench won't stop. The next fissure or seismic event, we need to understand them. And it's a valid point, and Jonas knows it. But the weight of his past battles, the lives lost because of these creatures, clouds his judgment. For him, the risk isn't worth the reward. As the meeting adjourns, the factions become clear. On one side are the scientists like Jody, driven by curiosity and a desire for knowledge. On the other are the financiers, eager to exploit the trench for its commercial potential. And somewhere in between stands Jonas, a reluctant hero who knows the cost of underestimating nature. Later, in a quieter moment, Jonas sits with Mac in the facility's break. Cheery. Mac hands him a cup of coffee, his usual smirk replaced by a look of concern. You okay? He asks, breaking the silence. Jonas sighs, running a hand through his hair. I don't get it. We've barely scratched the surface of what's down there, and already everyone's ready to poke the bear. Neon? Mac chuckles dryly. More like a giant prehistoric shark. But yeah, I get it. Your point. Nah. Jonas looks out the window, where the ocean stretches endlessly toward the horizon. It's not just about what's down there, he says, his voice quieter now. It's about what we're willing to risk to find out. The scene transitions to Jody in her lab, poring over data from the trench. She's surrounded by holographic displays of the fissure, Meg, and other creatures glimpsed during the expedition. There's a childlike wonder in her expression, but also a hint of frustration. To her, Jonas represents a roadblock, an old-school thinker too tied to his fears to see the bigger picture. Yet, deep down, she can't shake the feeling that he might be right. As night falls, the consortium's facility hums with activity. Researchers, engineers, and security teams prepare for the next phase, whatever that might be. But out in the ocean, under the cover of darkness, shadows move silently beneath the waves. The albino Meg, now fully aware of its freedom, begins to test the boundaries of its new world. Diet. And it's not alone. The ocean is restless. The fissures opened during the first expedition have created pathways where none existed before, like veins carrying the lifeblood of the trench into the wider ocean. With every passing hour, the delicate boundary between the ancient world below and the modern one above grows thinner. Jonas and his team, back aboard the state-of-the-art research vessel, are scrambling to analyze the data from their initial dive. Meiling, DK? Team's marine biologist pores over the sonar readings with a mix of fascination and dread. "This shouldn't be happening," she mutters, her voice barely audible over the hum of equipment. "These creatures, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. The trench was their sanctuary, and now it's open season." Matomis. Jonas stands behind her, arms folded, his jaw tight. He's seen enough to know that thriving is an understatement. The footage from the submersible's cameras is playing on a nearby screen. A pot of prehistoric fish, their scales shimmering with an unnatural luminescence, darts through the water. A smaller predator, something resembling a coelacanth but far more aggressive, snaps one of them in half in a blur of movement. And then there's the megalodon, the albino monster that seems to haunt every frame, its sheer size dwarfing anything else in its path. As the footage rolls, a sudden alert blares through the control room. The sonar system has picked up unusual activity in the shallower waters. Jonas moves quickly, scanning the data on a monitor. His stomach sinks. The readings are erratic, but they're unmistakable. Something massive is moving toward the surface. The scene cuts to a lone fishing boat bobbing on the ocean under a brilliant moonlit sky. The crew, a group of weathered fishermen, laugh and chat as they haul in nets heavy with their catch. Their voices are filled with the kind of easy camaraderie that only comes from years spent working together. It's a peaceful, almost idyllic moment. Until the boat jolts violently, sending one of the men sprawling. "What the hell was that?" shouts the captain, his voice sharp with alarm. The water around them begins to churn, and a dark shadows passes beneath the boat. For a moment, everything is still. Then, without warning, the albino Meg breaches the surface, its massive jaws snapping shut around the boat's hull. The men scream as the vessel is torn apart, the ocean swallowing them whole. The camera lingers on the aftermath, a broken net, a single floating lantern, and the water, now eerily calm again. Back on the research vessel, the team receives the distress call. Moments too late. Jonas listens to the garbled transmission, his face grim. "It's started," he says, his voice heavy with the weight of the inevitability. The next morning, the world awakens to news of the attack. Headlines: "Scream of a monster shark on the coast," and social media is ablaze with speculation. Some dismiss it as a hoax, while others demand immediate action. Coastal towns begin to panic, their beaches eerily deserted despite the peak of tourist season. The consortium convenes an emergency meeting aboard the research vessel. The tension is palpable as Jonas briefs the group. "The fishers didn't just let out the Meg," he explains, pointing to a map of the trench. and its surrounding areas. They've created an ecological highway. Smaller predators are moving into unfamiliar waters, and the Meg is at the top of the food chain. If we don't contain it, it'll disrupt entire ecosystems, and that's the best-case scenario. Alan Drake, ever the opportunist, isn't convinced. Let's not jump to conclusions. One attack doesn't mean we're dealing with an apocalyptic scenario. Besides, we've faced megalodons before, haven't we? He looks pointedly at Jonas, his smirk daring him to argue. Jonas meets his gaze, unflinching. This isn't like before, he says. This Meg is inerrant, bigger, smarter. It's not just hunting, it's exploring, testing its limits. And if it finds a way to the open ocean, we won't be able to stop it. Men. Jody Lee, sitting at the far end of the table, speaks up. If the fissures are the problem, why not seal them? Collapse the trench and cut their access to the surface. No. Jonas shakes his head. It's not that simple. The trench is unstable. Another collapse could trigger a chain reaction we can't control. We could make things worse. Yeah. The debate rages on, but Jonas knows time isn't on their side. Later that evening, he stands alone on the ship's deck, staring out at the horizon. The ocean stretches endlessly before him, dark and unknowable. He can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning, that the Meg is only the first wave of a much larger storm. Far below, in the cold, black depths of the trench, the albino Meg glides silently through the water. It's not alone. A swarm of smaller predators follows in its wake, their bioluminescent bodies casting an eerie glow. The camera lingers on the fissure where shadows shift and something even larger stirs, waiting for its moment to rise. The tension aboard the research vessel reaches a boiling point as the implications of the megalodon's escape begin to sink in. With the trench now a two-way door, the delicate balance of the ancient ecosystem has been irrevocably disrupted. Jonas knows they must act quickly, but the weight of responsibility sits heavy on his shoulders. Everyone is looking to him for answers, but his past failures haunt him, whispering doubts into the edges of his thoughts. As the sun rises, painting the ocean in hues of gold and crimson, the team prepares for a high-risk operation. Their plan is to deploy a network of acoustic beacons around the trench to lure the Meg back into its natural habitat. Mai Ling leads the briefing, her voice steady, despite the uncertainty. The beacons emit low-frequency signals that mimic the vibrations of prey. If we're lucky, the Meg will follow them back into the trench. Once it's inside, we'll seal the fissure using controlled detonations. No. The plan is bold, almost reckless, but it's their best shot. Jonas doesn't trust luck, but he doesn't voice his doubts. Instead, he focuses on the few practical details, drilling the team on every possible scenario. If the Meg doesn't take the bait, we fall back immediately. No heroics. This isn't a fight we can win head-on. Nini. The tension is palpable as the crew gears up. The research vessel is outfitted with a smaller, faster craft designed for the deployment mission. Jonas, Mac, and Mei Ling will be aboard, along with two highly trained divers, Carter and Elena. Jody remains on the main ship, monitoring their progress from the control room. As they descend into the smaller craft, Jonas pauses to look at Jody. Their earlier arguments have given way to a grudging respect. Keep an eye on those sensors, he tells her. If anything feels call us back. Jody nods, her usually sharp demeanor softened. You stay alive, Jonas. That's an order. The deployment craft slips into the water, its engines humming softly. Inside, the atmosphere is tense but focused. Mac cracks a joke about preferring to face taxes over a Meg, earning a chuckle from the others. Even Jonas manages a small smile. It's a brief moment of levity, but it reminds them all of what's at stake. Not just their lives, but everything they've worked for. As they approach the fissure, the water grows colder, the light from the yacht surface fading into an eerie twilight. The trench looms ahead, a yawning chasm that seems to swallow sound itself. Mei Ling activates. The first beacon, its soft pulse spreading through the water like a heartbeat. One down, she says, her voice crackling over the comms. The team works quickly, deploying the beacons in a precise formation. Each pulse feels like a gamble, a call to an apex predator that might not play by their rules. The tension ratchets up when the sonar pings. With a return signal, something massive is moving toward them. Jonas grips the controls tightly, his eyes scanning the murky water. Everyone stay sharp, he orders. It's close. Suddenly, the water around them churns violently, the craft lurching as a shadow passes beneath it. The megalodon appears, its pale, ghost-like form illuminated by the beacons. It's even larger than they remembered, its movements deliberate and terrifyingly intelligent. It doesn't charge the craft. Instead, it circles, watching, calculating. Is it stalking us? Mei Ling whispers, her voice tinged with awe and fear. Jonas doesn't answer. His focus is on the Meg's behavior. It's not acting like a mindless predator. It's testing them, like it knows they're not prey. Activate the second phase, he says, his voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The team triggers the beacon's secondary signals, designed to simulate the distress calls of wounded prey. The Meg reacts. Immediately, its massive body twisting toward the trench. For a moment, it seems like the plan is working. But just as it begins to descend, another shadow emerges from the fissure. The second creature is smaller but no less dangerous. A sleek, armored predator with jagged fins and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It moves with a speed that the Meg, for all its size, can't match. The smaller predator lunges at the beacons, destroying one with a single bite. The delicate balance of their plan begins to unravel. Fall back, Jonas shouts, his voice cutting through the chaos. The craft's engines roar to life as it speeds away from the trench. Behind them, the Meg and the smaller predator clash in a violent display of raw power. The ocean turns into a battlefield, the water frothing with the blood and fury. Back on the main vessel, Jody watches the sonar feed in horror. They're fighting, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. What the hell have we unleashed? Noonday. The team returns to the main ship, shaken but alive. The mission has failed, and the stakes have risen. It's no longer just about containing the Meg, it's about understanding what else has been set free. Jonas, drenched and exhausted, looks out at the endless expanse of water. For the first time, he feels truly outmatched. This isn't just one predator, he says grimly. This is a whole new ecosystem. And we're not at the top of the food chain anymore. Now, the failure of the initial plan weighs heavily on everyone aboard the fair research vessel. The atmosphere is thick with tension, the air filled with the hum of equipment and the distant, steady crash of waves against the hull. Jonas, Mei-Ling, and Mac, fresh from their harrowing encounter with the Meg and the new predator, gather in the briefing room alongside the rest of the team. They're battered but determined, their resolve hardened by the realization that the problem is far worse than they feared. Jody Lee is the first to speak, her voice sharp and urgent as she pulls up a series of holographic displays. We're not just dealing with a being Meg, she says, gesturing to the images. The second predator, it's not even in our records. It's a completely new species, and it's far more aggressive than anything we've seen before. The room falls silent as the team studies the footage. The creature is sleek, almost mechanical in its precision, with serrated fins and a streamlined body built for speed. Its attack on the beacons was deliberate, almost tactical. Mei-Ling, her brow furrowed, breaks the silence. This thing isn't just a hunter, it's an apex predator in its own right. If it gets to the surface, she doesn't finish the thought, but everyone knows what she means. The fragile balance of marine ecosystems could collapse. Coastal communities could be in danger. The consequences are almost too vast to comprehend. Jonas steps forward, his voice steady despite the chaos. We need a new approach, he says, his gaze sweeping across the team. The beacons didn't work because we underestimated how many of these things are out there. If we're going to contain them, we need to think bigger, smarter. Alan Drake, the consortium's slick corporate representative, SAOs, from the corner of the room. Bigger, smarter? You're talking about hunting a prehistoric predator with instincts honed over millions of years. You can't just outthink it, Jonas. And let's not forget the cost of Huayan. Every hour we spend out here. Messi. Jonas rounds on him, his eyes blazing. Cost? Tell that to the families of the fishermen who didn't make it back last night. Tell it to the people who'll be next if we don't stop this now. The room erupts into heated debate. Mei-Ling argues for more data collection, insisting they need to understand the creature's behavior before making another move. Jody proposes using bait to lure the predators into a controlled area, though she admits the risk is enormous. Alan Drake, predictably, suggests cutting their losses and pulling the operation all together. Amid the chaos, Max stands up and bangs a fist on the table, silencing the room. Enough, he growls. We can argue all day, but it won't mean squat if those things get past us. We need a plan, and we need it now. Now. The team eventually agrees on a desperate, high-stakes strategy. They'll use a combination of bait and experimental sonic devices to corral the predators into a natural underwater canyon near the trench. The canyon's narrow walls will make it easier to trap the creatures, giving them a chance to neutralize the threat. It's a long shot, but it's the best they've got. As preparations begin, the team works tirelessly, each member driven by a mix of fear, determination, and something deeper, hope. My Link and Jody collaborate to fine-tune the sonic devices, their bickering giving way to a grudging mutual respect. Mac oversees the loading of bait canisters, cracking jokes to keep the crew's spirits up. And Jonas, ever the reluctant leader, moves between groups, offering advice and quiet encouragement. There's a poignant moment as Jonas sits alone on the deck, staring out at the horizon. He pulls out an old weathered photograph from his jacket, a snapshot of his late wife and their young daughter taken long before the Megs entered his life. His fingers trace the edges of the photo as he remembers why he keeps fighting. It's not just for the people here and now. It's for the future, for the chance to make the ocean safe again. The plan takes shape, but as the sun sets, painting the sky in fiery hues, a sense of foreboding settles over the team. The predators are out there, somewhere in the vast, unknowable depths, and they're not the only ones preparing for the next encounter. Far below, in the dark abyss of the trench, the albino Meg prowls. Its sour movements slow and deliberate. It's not alone. The smaller predator swims beside it, a symbiotic pair united by their shared territory. And, deeper still, unseen by human eyes, something stirs. The camera lingers on a massive shadow, its outline barely visible against the rock. A low, resonant growl echoes through the water, shaking the fragile piece of the trench. Back on the surface, Jonas and the team finalize their plans, knowing the next 24 hours will determine everything. The weight of the mission presses down on them, but so does a sense of resolve. They're not just fighting for survival. They're fighting for the future of the world above and below the waves. As the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, the research vessel buzzes with activity. The team is running on adrenaline and too little sleep. Their faces a mix of determination and quiet fear. The ocean, calm and deceptively beautiful, stretches endlessly in every direction, hiding the dangers lurking beneath its surface. Jonas stands on the deck, gazing out at the vast expanse of water. His mind races with what lies ahead. This isn't just about catching the Meg anymore. There are more predators down there, and the ecosystem they've disrupted is more complex than anyone imagined. He feels the weight of every decision, every life that depends on the success of this mission. For a moment, he closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, grounding himself. This isn't the time for doubt. Hey, My Link's voice cuts through his thoughts as she approaches. She holds 2 steaming mugs of connie, offering one to him. You look like you haven't slept in days. Meh. Probably because I haven't, Jonas replies, managing a faint smile as He takes the cup. The bitter warmth steadies him. They stand in silence for a moment, watching the sunrise. It's a rare, quiet reprieve in the chaos. You think this plan will work? Mai Ling asks finally, her voice low. Jonas doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he studies the horizon, as if the answers might be hidden somewhere in the waves. It has to, he says at last. We don't have another option. The team gathers in the control room for a final briefing. Jody Lee stands at the head of the table, her usually sharp demeanor softened by the gravity of the moment. The canyon is here, she says, pointing in to a detailed map of the trench and its surrounding areas. It's narrow, deep, and surrounded by steep walls. If we can lure the Meg and the other predators inside, we can trap them long enough to neutralize the threat. Nice. Carter, one of the divers, frowns as he studies the map. And how exactly are we supposed to do that? These things aren't exactly predictable. No. That's where the sonic devices come in, Jody explains. They emit frequencies designed to agitate the predators, driving them toward the canyon. Way. We'll deploy bait canisters along the way to keep them on back. It's not just the Meg we're dealing with, Mei Ling interjects, her tone serious. That smaller predator, let's call it the razorfin, it's fast, aggressive, and clearly territorial. If it interferes with the plan, things could go south fast. No. Which is why we're running contingencies, Jonas says, stepping in. His voice is calm but firm, commanding attention. This isn't a fight. We're not here to kill them, we're here to contain them. Stick to the plan, follow your training, and we'll get through this. No. The briefing ends, and the team splits to prepare. The mood is tense but focused as they ready the bait canisters, check the sonic devices, and suit up for the mission. Mac, ever the optimist, tries to lighten the mood with his usual humor. So, who's taking bets on whether we end up as fish food? Not funny, Mac, Mei Ling retorts, though there's a faint smile on her lips. Jonas pulls Carter and Elena aside, the two divers who will be deploying the bait canisters. Listen to me, he says, his voice low but intense. You'll be in the water with these things. Keep your movements calm and deliberate. Don't try to outswim them. You won't win. If anything feels call it in immediately, and we'll pull you well out. Now need sour. They nod, their faces serious. There's no room for bravado here. They know the risks better than anyone. As the deployment craft sets the main vessel falls silent. Jody monitors the team's progress from the control room, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she tracks the predators on sonar. The first bait canister is deployed without incident, its contents dispersing in the far water like a shimmering cloud. The second and third follow, each one placed closer to the canyon's mouth. Then the sonar pings. A massive shape appears on the screen, moving toward the bait with unsettling precision. The albino Meg is on the move. Contact, Jody announces, her voice tense. It's heading for the first canister. Nah. In the water, Carter and Elena work quickly, their movements careful and practiced. The fourth canister is almost in place when the razor fin appears. It moves like a missile, its sleek body slicing through the water with terrifying speed. For a moment, it seems to ignore the core divers, its focus entirely on the bait. But then it pauses, circling back as ice, if sensing something out of place. "Jonas, we've got a problem," Carter says, his voice crackling over the "ums." "The razor fin's here, and is too close for comfort." "Hold your position," Jonas orders, his pulse quickening. "Stay calm, and keep the canister between you and it." "Nah." The tension is unbearable as the razor fin circles closer, its jagged fins glinting in the dim light. Suddenly, it lunges, not at the divers, but at the canister. The force of the attack sends shockwaves through the water, and the divers scramble to maintain their positions. "Fall back," Jonas shouts. "Get out of there now." The divers retreat, their movements swift but controlled. The razor fin doesn't pursue them, its attention fixed on the bait. But as they ascend, Carter catches a glimpse of something else in the water. Another shadow, larger and deeper than the Meg. He doesn't have time to process what he's seen. The craft's hatch opens, and the divers are pulled inside just as the razor fin destroys the canister. Back on the main vessel, Jonas watches the sonar feed with a sinking feeling in his chest. The Meg is still on course for the base canyon, but the presence of the razor fin, and now this new, even larger shadow, changes everything. "We're not just luring them in," he mutters to himself. "We're walking straight into their territory." The mission reaches a critical turning point as the Megalodon and Resorphin close in on the canyon. The tension aboard the research vessel is almost palpable, every second stretching out as the team monitors the unfolding operation. The ocean has grown darker, with storm clouds forming on the horizon, casting a foreboding shadow over the waters. It feels as though the sea itself is mirroring the danger below. In the control room, Jody's eyes are glued to the sonar. The rhythmic blips of the predators are like a drumbeat, each one louder and closer. "The Meg's on course for the canyon," she announces, her voice tight. "Resorphin's lagging, but it's not far behind." Jonas leans over her shoulder, studying the screen. His jaw is set, his mind racing. He knows the razorfin's erratic behavior could jeopardize everything. "We need to keep them focused on the bait," he says. "If they break one now, we lose our chance." "Aye." Mac, sitting nearby, chimes in with a nervous laugh. "You mean if they break? Oh, why. Always the optimist, huh?" "Nah." Jonas doesn't respond, his focus unbroken. Mac's attempt at humor falls flat, the gravity of the situation too overwhelming for levity. "My." Ling enters the room, her expression a mix of determination and worry. "The sonic devices are ready," she reports. "We'll activate them once the Meg's inside the canyon." "Yeah, oh." "Good," Jonas replies, his voice steady but strained. "Let's hope it works." Oh. Meanwhile, on the smaller deployment craft, Carter and Elena prepare to release the final bait canisters. The water around them is unnervingly calm, the kind of stillness that precedes a storm. Carter Adjusts his diving gear, his movements precise but tense. You ever think about how we ended up here? He asks, half joking. Swimming with prehistoric monsters instead of sipping cocktails on a beach? My. Elena smirks, her grip tightening on the canister. I try not to think about it too much. Keeps the panic at bay. They exchange a look, a brief moment of camaraderie in the face of unimaginable danger. Then the sonar pings again. Closer, louder. The VFO. Meg is almost within range. Carter takes a deep breath, steadying himself. Let's do this. As the final canister is released, the ocean explodes into motion. The vow. Meg surges toward the bait, its massive form slicing through the water. With terrifying power. For a moment everything seems to go according to plan. The behemoth follows the trail, its pale, scarred body illuminated by the faint glow of the canyon's depths. But then, the razorfin appears, darting through the water like a missile. It's erratic. Movements disrupt the bait trail, and it begins to circle the Meg, nipping at its fins. On the main vessel, the team watches in horror as the predators clash. The razorfin is smaller but faster, its attacks calculated and precise. The Meg retaliates with brute force, its massive jaws snapping at the smaller creature. The water churns with the violence of their fight, a chaotic maelstrom of power and aggression. This wasn't supposed to happen, Mei Ling says, her voice barely above a whisper. They're supposed to be following the bait, not this. Jonas clenches his fists, his mind racing for a solution. Activate the carries. Sonic devices, he orders. No. Mei Ling hesitates. But the Meg's not fully in the canyon yet. Do it. Jonas snaps, his voice filled with urgency. The sonic devices activate, their low-frequency pulses rippling through the water. The predators react instantly. The Meg roars, a deep, guttural sound that reverberates through the ocean. It turns toward the Fires Canyon, its massive body moving with renewed purpose. But the razorfin isn't so easily swayed. It continues its attack, relentless, unyielding. Carter's voice crackles over the comms. We've got another problem, he says, his tone laced with fear. There's something else down here. The sonar feed confirms his words. A new blip appears on the screen. Larger than the Meg, larger than anything they've seen before. It moves. With slow, deliberate grace, its size almost incomprehensible. Jodi's face goes pale as she stares at the screen. What the hell is that? Jonas doesn't have an answer. His gaze shifts between the sonar and the churning water, his heart pounding. Get out of there, he says into the comms. Carter, Elena, pull back now. The deployment craft speeds away, its engines roaring as it retreats toward the main vessel. On board, the team braces for what comes next. The Meg enters the canyon, its massive form disappearing into the depths. The razorfin hesitates at the entrance, its sleek body illuminated by the faint glow of the sonic devices. And then, from the darkness, the new creature emerges. It's colossal, dwarfing even the Meg in size. Its body is covered in thick, ridged armor, and its eyes glow with an eerie bioluminescence. It moves with a terrifying calm as though it knows it has nothing to fear. The razorfin retreats instantly, vanishing into the shadows. The Meg, however, turns to face the new predator, its roar echoing through the water. On the main vessel, the team watches in stunned silence. "That thing," Jody begins, her voice trembling. "It's not just a predator. It's a thing." Jonas takes a step back, his mind struggling to process what he's seeing. This isn't just about containing the Meg or the razorfin anymore. This is something far beyond their understanding, an apex predator of a world they've barely begun to explore. As the two giants square one in the canyon, the team realizes the stakes have changed. This isn't just a fight for survival. It's a battle for dominance, one that could reshape the fragile balance of the ocean forever. The confrontation between the Meg and the colossal new predator unfolds in the canyon, a violent clash of prehistoric titans. The water churns with turbulence, illuminated by the glow of the sonic devices and the eerie bioluminescence of the larger creature's eyes. On the surface, the research team watches in stunned silence as the sonar feed captures the chaos below. Every movement on the screen feels like a drumbeat of impending doom. Jonas stands at the center of the control room, his face grim as he assesses the situation. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he mutters, his voice barely audible. The plan was to contain the Meg and its razorfin companion, not provoke a confrontation with something far more dangerous. Yet here they are, spectators to a battle that could reshape the ocean's hierarchy. Jody, her fingers flying across the keyboard, breaks the silence. The bigger one, whatever it is, it's pushing the Meg back into the canyon. But it's not stopping there. It's claiming the space. None. Mai Ling steps closer, her face pale. "Claiming it? What do you mean?" Jody points to the sonar. "Look at the patterns. The way it's moving. The way it forced the razorfin to retreat. It's territorial. It's not just defending itself. It's asserting dominance." And the realization sends a chill through the room. This isn't just another predator. It's a ruler of the depths, a creature that has likely lived undisturbed for millennia, now forced to confront invaders in its domain. Below the surface, the Meg fights valiantly but struggles against the sheer power and size of the larger predator. Each clash of their massive bodies sends shockwaves through the water, the sound reaching the research vessel in deep, resonant booms. The canyon walls tremble under the force, dislodging rocks and sediment that may cloud the water. In the deployment craft, Carter and Elena are still returning to the main vessel, their faces etched with fear. Carter clutches the controls, his hands trembling. "Did you see that thing?" he says, his voice breaking. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered. It's like a goddamn sea monster. Name." Elena doesn't respond, her eyes fixed on the water ahead. She's thinking about the razor-thin margin between survival and catastrophe, about how close they came to being in the middle of that clash. Her heart pounds as she silently prays they make it back in one piece. As the divers are pulled aboard the main vessel, Jonas meets them at the hatch. "You okay?" he asks, his voice laced with concern. Carter nods shakily, though his eyes betray his lingering terror. "We alive," he says. "That's about all I can say." Jonas places a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "That's enough. You did good out there." Back in the control room, the tension remains high as the battle in the canyon escalates. The larger predator forces the Meg deeper into the canyon, its massive jaws snapping with devastating precision. Each blow seems calculated, as if the creature knows it's fighting not just for territory, but for supremacy. Then, without warning, the Meg changes tactics. It turns abruptly, using its bulk and power to ram the larger predator into the canyon. The impact is deafening, a sound that reverberates through the water and up to the surface. The research team collectively flinches, their hands gripping the edges of their desks. "It's fighting back," Mac mutters, half in awe, half in fear. "The Meg's not going down without a fight." No. But even as the Meg presses its advantage, the larger predator proves its dominance. With a swift, almost surgical movement, it clamps its massive jaws around the Meg's tail, immobilizing it. The Meg thrashes wildly, its roars muffled by the water, but it's clear the battle is over. The larger predator releases its grip, sending the Meg tumbling deeper into the canyon, wounded but alive. The team exhales in unison, the tension in the room momentarily easing. "It's over," Mei Ling says, her voice soft. But her relief is short-lived as she studies the sonar. "Wait, no, it's not leaving." Jody frowns, her hands flying over the controls. She's right. The big one isn't retreating. It's moving toward the surface. Now. The words send a ripple of fear through the room. Jonas straightens, his expression hardening. "We need to move. Now." The larger predator, its dominance asserted, begins to ascend, its bioluminescent eyes glowing like twin beacons in the dark water. It's as though the creature is no longer content to remain in its hidden domain. The commotion has drawn it upward, toward the unfamiliar world above. On deck, the crew scrambles to prepare for an emergency retreat. Equipment is secured, engines are powered up, and alarms blare. Through the vessel, Jonas takes the helm, barking orders as the team works with frantic precision. But even as they prepare to flee, there is a sense of awe among the crew. For all the fear this creature inspires, there is something mesmerizing about it. Its sheer size, its ancient, unknowable power. It's a living relic of a world long gone, now colliding with the modern age in a way no one could have anticipated. As the vessel begins to pull away, the predator breaks the surface, its massive head rising above the waves. Water cascades each ridged armor, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, its glowing eyes seemed to lock onto the ship. The crew freezes, every muscle tensed. Time seems to stand still as ice. The creature lets out a deep, resonant roar that shakes the air, water alike. It's a sound that speaks of dominance, of a creature that has ruled its world for millennia, and now challenges this new one. Jonas grips the railing, his jaw set. "We're not dealing with a predator," he murmurs. "We're dealing with a king." The ship surges forward, engines roaring as they race away from the creature. Behind them the water churns violently, the predator disappearing beneath the waves once more. But its presence lingers, a reminder that the ocean is still a place of mystery and power far beyond human control. As the research vessel speeds away, the storm that had loomed on the horizon begins to overtake them. Thunder cracks like cannon fire, and rain pelts the deck with relentless force. The ocean, once calm and deceptively serene, transforms into a seething, chaotic expanse. Waves crash against the hull, tossing the vessel like a toy. The crew scrambles to maintain control, their fear amplified by the knowledge of what lurks beneath. Jonas grips the railing of the bridge, his knuckles white as he stares into the storm. The creature's roar still echoes in his mind, a sound so primal it seemed to shake the very core of the earth. He knows they've escaped immediate danger, but he also knows they're far from safe. The predator, this king of the deep, has made its presence known, and its intentions remain an enigma. "Jonas," Mai Ling calls out, her voice barely audible over the storm. She steps into the bridge, soaked to the bone but resolute. "We've got a problem. The storm's pushing us toward the shallows. If we lose propulsion, we'll run aground." "Nein." Jonas curses under his breath, his mind racing. "We can't stay here. Not with that thing down there." "I know," Mai Ling replies, her expression grim. "But we're running out of options." "Nay." Below deck, the rest of the crew works frantically to stabilize the ship. Jody monitors the sonar, her eyes darting between the chaotic readouts. The predator's signal has vanished, lost in the storm and the storm turbulence of the shallow waters. But its absence isn't reassuring. It's unsettling. "I don't like this," Jody mutters to herself. "It's too quiet." Mac, working beside her, tries to lighten the mood. Maybe it decided to take a nap. Even sea monsters need beauty sleep. No. Jody doesn't smile. "You don't understand. Creatures like that don't just disappear. It's hunting, regrouping, waiting." Nay. On the deck, Carter and Elena secure the last of the loose equipment. The rain stings their faces, and the wind howls like a living thing. Carter pauses, his gaze fixed on the dark water. "You think it's still out there?" he asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena doesn't answer immediately. She tightens the strap on her harness, her eyes scanning the horizon. "It's out there," she says finally. "And it's not done with us." The storm reaches its peak as the vessel approaches the shallows. Lightning illuminates the scene in stark flashes, revealing jagged rocks jutting out of the water like the teeth of some ancient beast. Jonas orders the crew to prepare for emergency maneuvers, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Keep the engines steady. Watch the starboard side, we're getting too close." Eee. Amid the chaos, the sonar pings again. Jody's heart skips a beat as a familiar, massive shape reappears on the screen. "It's back," she says, her voice trembling. "It's right below us." The announcement sends a ripple of fear through the crew. On the Sophia bridge, Jonas grips the controls tighter. "Full speed ahead," he shouts. "We need to get to deeper water." But the Predator has other plans. From the depths, it strikes with terrifying force, ramming the vessel's underside. The impact sends everyone sprawling, and the ship lurches violently to one side. Water sprays across the deck as the crew scrambles to regain their footing. "It's testing us," Mei Ling says, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "It's not just attacking, it's strategizing." Jonas doesn't respond. His focus is on the horizon, where the shallows end and the open ocean begins. If they can just reach deeper water, they might stand a chance. But the Predator isn't giving them that opportunity. It strikes again, this time from the stern, its massive body surfacing briefly before disappearing beneath the waves. For a moment, its glowing eyes are visible, staring at the crew with an intelligence that's almost human. In the chaos, Carter and Elena are thrown to the deck. Carter grabs a rope, securing himself to the railing while Elena clings to a nearby support me. "This thing's playing with us," Carter shouts, his voice barely audible over the storm. "It's like it knows we're trying to escape." On the bridge, Jonas makes a decision. "We need to fight back," says, his voice resolute. "Mei Ling, are the sonic devices still operational?" "Nee. They are," she replies. "But deploying them in these conditions—" "Do it," Jonas interrupts. "It's our only chance." Mei Ling hesitates, then nods. She relays the orders, and the crew scrambles to activate the sonic devices. The plan is risky. Deploying the devices in the shallows could agitate the Predator further, but it might also drive it away long enough for the vessel to reach safety. As the first device is deployed, the Predator reacts instantly. It surfaces again, its massive head rising above the waves. The crew freezes as it lets out another earth-shaking roar, its glowing eyes locking onto the ship. Then, with a powerful swipe of its tail, it dives back into the depths, disappearing from sight. The sonic devices emit their frequencies, rippling through the water like an invisible net. For a moment the tension is unbearable. The Predator doesn't reappear, and the vessel inches closer to the safety of deeper waters. But the crew knows better than to let their guard down. In the control room, Jody watches the sonar with bated breath. "It's gone," she says finally, her voice filled with disbelief. "At least for now." On the bridge, Jonas exhales deeply, his hands trembling as he grips the controls. "Keep moving," he orders. "We're not out of this yet." As the storm begins to subside, the crew allows themselves a brief moment of relief. But the encounter has left its mark, a reminder of the ocean's untamed power and the fragility of their own existence. For Jonas, Mei Ling, and the rest of the team, one thing is clear: this is far from over. The Predator may have retreated, but it's still out there, a lurking menace in the depths. As dawn breaks, the ocean transforms from a storm-ravaged Nightmare into a vast, calm expanse, deceptively tranquil. The golden light glints on the water, making it hard to believe the horrors of the far night before. But the crew aboard the battered research vessel knows better. Their ordeal may be over for now, but the weight of what they've encountered lingers heavy in the air. Jonas stands on the deck, leaning against the railing. The salty breeze stings the cuts on his face, but he hardly notices. His eyes are fixed on the horizon, where the sun is rising, casting long shadows over the waves. He takes a deep breath, the kind that feels like it's meant to cleanse the soul but doesn't quite succeed. His mind replays the events of the past hours, the battles, the roaring predator, the team's desperate fight for survival. Despite everything, a single thought gnaws at him. It's still out there. Behind him, Mei Ling approaches, her steps quiet but deliberate. She holds 2 steaming cups of kami, offering one to Jonas. You should rest, she says, her voice softer than usual. You've been up all night. Jonas accepts the cup with a small nod of thanks, though he doesn't drink. Rest, he repeats with a dry chuckle. Feels like a luxury we can't accord. Oh. Mei Ling stands beside him, looking out at the same horizon. No. Survived, Jonas. That has to count for something. It does, Jonas agrees after a moment. But we didn't win. That thing's still out there. And now it knows we're here. Mei Ling doesn't argue. She knows he's right. The predator they encountered wasn't just a creature. It was a force of nature, a ruler of Rio. Its domain. They didn't defeat it, they merely escaped. And she wonders, not for the first time, what consequences their intrusion might bring. Elsewhere on the ship, the crew begins to regroup. Jody is back at her workstation, reviewing the sonar data from the night before. Her fingers move with practiced precision, but her face is pale, her usual confidence shaken. Mac joins her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Find anything? He asks, his tone more subdued than usual. Jody shakes her head. No sign of it since the last ping. It's like it vanished into thin air, or water, I guess. No, that's a good thing, right? Mac owers, though his voice lacks conviction. Maybe, Jody replies, her gaze distant. Or maybe it's just waiting. Carter and Elena sit together in the galley, nursing cups of tea. Carter's hands tremble slightly as he lifts his cup, a physical manifestation of the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. I keep seeing it, he says quietly. Those eyes, like it was sizing us up. Elena nods, her expression unreadable. It wasn't just a predator, she says. It was something else, something older, smarter. The entire crew shares the same unspoken thought. They've crossed a line, ventured too far into a world they weren't meant to see. And now, they're left with the knowledge that their presence has awakened something that was content to remain hidden. Back on deck, Jonas and Mei Ling are joined by Jody and Mac. The conversation turns to what happens next. We need to report this, Jody says firmly. The world has to know what's down there. And what good would that do? Mac counters. Start a panic. Send every thrill-seeker and treasure hunter into the trench. That thing doesn't need more reasons to come after us. Jonas raises a hand, silencing the debate. We'll make our report, he says, his tone brooking no argument. But we'll keep the details about the predator minimal. The last thing we need is to turn this into a spectacle. Miajar. The decision is met with reluctant agreement. They all know the risks of revealing too much. The ocean is vast and mysterious, and some secrets are better left in the deep. As the day wears on, the ship limps back toward port. The crew works quietly, the usual camaraderie replaced by a heavy contemplative silence. Each of them grapples with their own thoughts, their own fears. They've faced death and survived, but the experience has left them changed. When the coastline finally comes into view, there's a collective sense of relief. The familiar sight of land feels like a lifeline, a return to normalcy. But even as they dock and step onto solid ground, the events of the past days cling to them like a shadow. Jonas lingers on the pier as the crew disembarks, watching the waves lap against the shore. Mai Ling approaches once more, her bag slung over her shoulder. You coming? She asks. In a minute, Jonas replies, his voice distant. She hesitates, then nods. Don't stay out here too long. You'll start thinking the ocean staring back. Jonas smiles faintly at her attempt at humor, but the weight in his chest doesn't lift. As Mai Ling walks away, he turns his gaze back to the foul water. The sun glints on the surface, masking the darkness below. Somewhere out there, the predator still roams, a reminder of how little humanity truly knows about the world it inhabits. For now, the trench holds its secrets once more. But Jonas knows it's only a matter of time before curiosity, or desperation, drives humanity back into the depths. And next time, the predator may not be so willing to let them leave. As he finally turns to follow his crew, one thought lingers in his mind. The ocean always remembers. Few films manage to capture the sheer enormity of nature's mysteries and blend them with blockbuster action like the Meg franchise. The May third installment, Meg 3, The Trench, builds upon the legacy of its predecessors, delivering a film that is both visually stunning and deeply engaging, albeit with its share of flaws. Watching it felt like embarking on a deep-sea expedition, thrilling, occasionally overwhelming, and full of surprises. Here's why I believe this movie made waves, for better and for worse. A return to the abyss. One of the most striking elements of Meg 3, The Trench, is its setting. The Mariana Trench, with its haunting beauty and untapped mysteries, serves as the perfect backdrop for this aquatic adventure. From the feuille moment the film opens with sweeping shots of the ocean's surface, transitioning into the dark, foreboding depths, I felt an immediate sense of awe and anticipation. The filmmakers have clearly invested significant effort into creating an immersive environment. The visuals of The Trench, complete with glowing bioluminescent creatures and towering underwater rock formations, are nothing short of breathtaking. Yet, while the setting captivated me, I couldn't help but feel that the movie relied too heavily on its spectacle. The trench, as mesmerizing as it is, often overshadowed the narrative. Instead of being an integral part of the story, it occasionally felt like a high-budget wallpaper, designed to distract from the plot's weaker points. The characters, familiar faces, new challenges. Jason Statham returns as Jonas Taylor, the fearless yet deeply human protagonist. Statham's performance is as reliable as ever. His mix of determination and subtle humor keeps the character grounded, even amid the chaos of battling prehistoric sea monsters. However, Jonas's arc in this installment felt somewhat stagnant. While he's portrayed as a seasoned expert who has faced the Meg before, I wanted to see more of his internal struggles or vulnerabilities explored. The emotional weight of his decisions, especially given the stakes, seemed underplayed. The supporting cast, including Mei Ling, Jodie, and Mac, bring their own charm and quirks to the table. Mei Ling in particular stood out to me as a character who balanced intellect and bravery, adding depth to the ensemble. However, some new additions felt underdeveloped, serving more as plot devices than fully realized individuals. Carter and Elena, for instance, had potential for compelling backstories, but their roles were largely confined to reacting to the immediate danger. Action and suspense, a double-edged sword. If there's one thing Meg 3 does exceptionally well, it's delivering adrenaline-pumping action sequences. The confrontations between the Meg and the new apex predator are nothing short of epic. The underwater choreography, combined with the heart-stopping score, had me gripping the edge of my seat. The filmmakers masterfully use silence and sound to heighten tension. The eerie quiet of the deep ocean, punctuated by the sudden roar of a creature, is spine-chilling. However, the action sequences sometimes fell into the trap of excess. While the battles were thrilling, they occasionally felt repetitive, losing some of their impact. The movie seemed to prioritize spectacle over substance, which, while entertaining, left me craving a bit more. And once I found myself yearning for quieter, more introspective moments to balance the relentless pace. Thematic depth. What lies beneath its surface-level thrills? Meg 3 attempts to explore themes of horror, humanity's hubris, and our relationship with nature. The film subtly critiques our tendency to exploit the unknown for personal gain, as us, seen through the corporate subplot that drives much of the conflict. The Meg and its counterpart serve as metaphors for nature's unchecked power, reminding us that the world's most dangerous forces often lie beyond our comprehension. While these themes are compelling, they're not as deeply explored as they could be. The movie touches on these ideas but doesn't fully commit to them, leaving me with a sense of missed opportunity. For a film set in one of the most mysterious places on Earth, I wanted more philosophical reflection on the trench's significance and the broader implications of humanity's intrusion. The Predator, a force of nature. The introduction of the new apex predator is both a highlight and a source of frustration. Its design is stunning, a mix of biological realism and cinematic exaggeration. Watching it dominate the Meg was a thrilling twist. emphasizing that even the most fearsome creatures are part of a larger hierarchy. Yet, despite its physical presence, the predator lacked the personality or narrative weight that made the Meg such an iconic antagonist in earlier films. I wanted to know more about its origins, its behavior, or what made it unique beyond being a bigger, badder creature. Emotional resonance, missing the mark. One aspect where Meg 3 falls short is its emotional depth. While the stakes are undeniably high, life and death, the survival of humanity, the film rarely pauses to let these stakes sink in. Moments of loss or triumph are often overshadowed by the next big action set piece. I found myself longing for more human connection, more scenes that reminded me why these characters were fighting so hard to survive. Final thoughts. A mixed bag of depths and highs. Ultimately, Meg 3, The Trench is a film that excels in spectacle but struggles with substance. It's a visual feast, a thrill ride that delivers exactly what it promises: giant sea monsters, heart-stopping action, and jaw-dropping underwater vistas. As a fan of the franchise, I appreciated the eagerness to expand its world and introduce new inches. However, as someone who values storytelling and character development, I felt the movie didn't quite reach its full potential. Would I recommend it? Absolutely, especially to fans of creature features and action-packed blockbusters. But I'd also advise going in with tempered expectations. If you're looking for a thought-provoking exploration of the deep or a deeply emotional narrative, you might leave wanting more. However, if you're there to marvel at the sheer power and mystery of the ocean and the creatures that inhabit it, Meg 3 delivers in spades. In the end, the film serves as a reminder of why we're so captivated by the ocean, its beauty, its danger, and its endless unknowns. It's a place where myths come to life and where humanity's limits are tested. For all its flaws, Meg 3 captures that essence. And as the credits rolled, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the trench might hold, and whether humanity is ready to face them. Here are some key facts about Meg 3, The Trench that are insights into the movie's production, story, and reception. Meg 3, The Trench is the third installment in the Meg series, based on Steve Alten's Meg novels. The film continues the story of Jonas Taylor, played by Jason Statham, and his encounters with the prehistoric megalodon and other deep-sea creatures. Unlike the first two movies, this installment delves deeper into the mysteries of the Mariana Trench, introducing new creatures and challenges. The film was directed by Ben Wheatley, who brought a unique blend of tension and visual storytelling to the franchise. Wheatley's approach emphasized the scale of the underwater world, creating a sense of awe and terror that permeates the film. One of the standout aspects of the movie is its visual edicts. The team worked meticulously to create realistic depictions of the ocean's depths and its inhabitants. The megalodon, already a fan favorite and creature, was joined by a new apex predator, designed to push the boundaries of what audiences expect in a creature feature. These designs were grounded in biology, while also allowing for cinematic exaggeration. The movie was shot in multiple locations, with a combination of on-set water tanks and CGI to bring the underwater world to life. The production faced challenges in depicting the Mariana Trench's unique environment, particularly its darkness and bioluminescent ecosystem. Meg 3 introduced new characters while retaining familiar faces, including Jason Statham as Jonas Taylor and supporting actors like Sophia and Clyde Curtis. The ensemble cast worked to balance the balance. High-stakes action with moments of humor and camaraderie, though some critics noted that certain characters were underdeveloped. The film's soundtrack, composed by Harry Gregson Williams, added depth to the tense underwater sequences. The music ranged from haunting melodies during moments of suspense to powerful, adrenaline-fueled scores during action scenes. While the movie focuses on high-octane action and suspense, it also touches on themes of humanity's hubris, environmental preservation, and the consequences of exploring the unknown. These thematic elements, though present, are often overshadowed by the film's spectacle. Released in 2024, the movie was highly anticipated by fans of Thanos franchise. It performed well at the box office, particularly in international markets, where the spectacle of the megalodon and other creatures resonated with audiences. However, critical reviews were mixed, with praise for the visuals and action but criticism for its storytelling and character development. One interesting fact is that the megalodon depicted in the movie is much larger than the scientifically estimated size of the real creature, emphasizing its role as a cinematic monster rather than a realistic depiction. The film ends with hints of potential future installments, leaving fans speculating about where the franchise might go next. The Mariana Trench, as portrayed in the movie, still holds many secrets, suggesting that the filmmakers have plenty of material to explore in subsequent sequels. Meg 3. The Trench solidifies its place as a thrilling addition to the franchise, combining jaw-dropping visuals with the primal fear of the primal fear unknown lurking beneath the ocean's surface. Meg 3. The Trench dives deeper into the aquatic chaos of its predecessors, delivering another installment of giant sea monsters, human resilience, and high-stakes survival. Directed by Ben Wheatley, the film takes viewers on a journey into the uncharted depths of the Mariana Trench, promising both thrills and chills. While the movie excels in spectacle and action, it falls short in areas that could have elevated it beyond a typical creature feature. The visual effects in Meg 3 are undoubtedly one of its strongest assets. The underwater world is rendered with incredible detail, from the eerie darkness of the trench to the bioluminescent creatures that inhabit it. The megalodon remains a terrifying presence, its sheer size and power showcased in a series of breathtaking sequences. The introduction of a new apex predator adds to the visual grandeur, with every confrontation between the creatures meticulously choreographed. However, while the visuals are undeniably stunning, they often overshadow other elements of the film. The trench itself, though mesmerizing, sometimes feels like a distraction from the story rather than a fully integrated part of it. The narrative of Meg 3 follows a familiar formula. A group of scientists and adventurers must face one against ancient creatures while grappling with the consequences of human intrusion into nature's realm. While the plot is serviceable for an action blockbuster, it lacks the depth and originality needed to truly stand out. The pacing is relentless, with action scenes packed back to back, leaving little room for character development or quieter moments of reflection. This approach keeps the audience on the edge of their seats, but at the expense of emotional engagement. The stakes are undeniably high, yet the film doesn't fully explore the psychological or moral implications of its events. Jason Statham returns as Jonas Taylor, bringing his signature blend of grit and charm to the role. Statham's performance is solid, but the character's arc feels stagnant compared to the previous films. New characters are introduced, but many of them lack depth and are reduced to archetypes rather than fully realized individuals. Sophia as Jing and Klein Curtis as Mac provide moments of levity and warmth, but their potential contributions to the story are underutilized. The dynamics between the characters could have added emotional weight to the narrative, but these relationships are overshadowed by the constant focus on action. Meg 3 touches on several intriguing themes, such as humanity's hubris, the dangers of exploration, and the fragile balance between mankind and nature. Unfortunately, these themes are only lightly explored, taking a backseat to the film's action-oriented plot. Given the fall setting, a mysterious trench teeming with ancient life, the movie had the opportunity to delve into deeper philosophical questions about humanity's place in the natural world. Instead, it opts for spectacle over substance. If there's one thing Meg 3 delivers in spades, it's action. The underwater battles between the megalodon, its new rival, and the human characters are pulse-pounding and visually impressive. The use of sound, alternating between tense silence and explosive roars, heightens the suspense. The choreography of these sequences demonstrates a clear understanding of how to maximize tension and excitement. However, the reliance on action becomes a double-edged sword. While the set pieces are undeniably thrilling, their frequency and intensity leave little room for variety. By the third act, the constant barrage of high-stakes encounters begins to feel repetitive. Meg 3, The Trench is a visually stunning and entertaining blockbuster that delivers on its promise of high-octane thrills and monstrous mayhem. Fans of the franchise will likely enjoy the larger-than-life action and the expansion of the underwater world. However, the film's lack of character development, thematic depth, and narrative innovation prevents it from achieving greatness. For viewers seeking an adrenaline-filled ride with jaw-dropping visuals, Meg 3 is a solid choice. But for those hoping for a deeper exploration of its fascinating setting and thought-provoking ideas, the film may leave you wanting more. The Meg series, based on Steve Alten's novels, follows humanity's encounters with the megalodon, a prehistoric shark believed to have been extinct for millions of years. Here's a recap of the key events from the first two movies, The Meg, 2018, and Meg 2, The Trench, 2023, 2. Set the stage for Meg 3, The Trench, 2024. Jason Statham once again proves why he's the backbone of the Meg franchise. As Jonas Taylor, the rugged deep-sea diver and action hero, Statham carries the movie with his signature blend of grit, charm, and understated humor. His portrayal of Jonas showcases a man who's not just a survivor, but someone deeply committed to protecting others, even when the odds are overwhelmingly against him. Statham's physicality is unparalleled, and this role takes full advantage of it. Whether he's outmaneuvering colossal sea creatures or navigating the treacherous waters of the trench, his stunts are a marvel to watch. Unlike many action stars who rely solely on bravado, Statham infuses Jonas with a sense of vulnerability. He's not a perfect hero. He's a man haunted by his past encounters with the megalodon. But he uses that trauma to fuel his resolve. In Meg 3, we see a more seasoned and reflective Jonas. Statham balances the character's hardened exterior with moments of emotional depth, particularly in his interactions with the younger characters like Ming. These scenes reveal a softer, more paternal side to Jonas, showcasing Statham's range as an actor. While the Planet movie focuses heavily on action and spectacle, Statham ensures that Jonas remains relatable, grounding the fantastical elements with his authentic performance. On-screen, Statham is known for his rigorous preparation for roles, and Meg 3 is no exception. He trained extensively to perform many of his underwater scenes, lending an air of realism to the film's intense sequences. His dedication to the craft is evident in every frame, solidifying his status as one of the most reliable action stars of his generation. Sophia returns as Ming, the precocious and intelligent young woman who has grown significantly since the events of the previous films. In Meg 3, Ming is no longer just a child caught in the chaos. She's an active participant in the story, contributing her knowledge and quick thinking to the team's survival efforts. Kay's performance is a standout, bringing warmth and emotional weight to the film. She portrays Ming with a mix of youthful curiosity and mature resilience, making her one of the most relatable characters in the movie. Her chemistry with Jason Statham is particularly noteworthy. The father-daughter-like bond between Ming and Jonas adds a layer of emotional depth to the story, owning moments of levity and heart amid the high-stakes action. What's remarkable about Kaya's portrayal is her ability to hold her own alongside seasoned actors like Statham and Clyde Curtis. She brings a fresh perspective to the narrative, often acting as the moral compass of the group. Her character's growth from a vulnerable child to a capable and resourceful young woman is one of the most satisfying arcs in the franchise. Clyde Curtis brings his signature charisma and gravitas to the role of Mac, Jonas' loyal friend and colleague. As the operations manager of the Mana One facility, Mac is the glue that holds the team together, providing both logistical support and emotional stability. Curtis's performance is understated but impactful, offering a grounded counterpoint to the larger-than-life action. Mac is often the voice of reason in the chaos, and Curtis plays this role with a natural ease. His interactions with the team, particularly within Jonas, highlight a deep sense of camaraderie and mutual respect. Curtis infuses the character with subtle humor and warmth, making Mac a fan favorite despite his relatively limited screen time. In Meg 3, Mac faces his own challenges, stepping out of his comfort zone to confront the dangers of the trench head-on. Curtis's portrayal of Mac's bravery and determination adds a layer of complexity to the Faye character, reminding audiences that heroism comes in many forms. Jing, a celebrated actor in Chinese cinema, joins the Meg franchise as Juming Zhang, a marine biologist and key member of the team. Ming is portrayed as a passionate and knowledgeable scientist who brings both expertise and heart to the mission. Jing's performance is a highlight of the film, combining intellectual curiosity with a deep sense of responsibility for the creatures of the trench. Ming's dynamic with Jonas is particularly compelling. The two characters, though vastly different in their approaches, share a mutual respect and a common goal. Jing brings a sense of gravitas to the role, grounding the film's fantastical elements in scientific plausibility. One of the most memorable aspects of Juming's character is his nuanced perspective on the creatures of the trench. While others view them as threats, Juming sees them as wonders of nature, deserving of both awe and caution. Jing's portrayal of this duality adds depth to the narrative, challenging audiences to reconsider humanity's relationship with the unknown. While the primary cast carries much of the narrative, the supporting actors also bring their A-game to Meg 3. New characters, including corporate antagonists and additional crew members, add layers to the story, though some are more developed than others. For example, newcomers like Sergio Perez Mencheta, who plays a rival scientist with questionable motives, inject tension and conflict into the plot. Meanwhile, actors playing the crew of the Mana 1 facility add in levity and camaraderie, rounding out the ensemble. Overall, the cast of Meg 3. The Trench delivers strong performances that elevate the film beyond its action-packed premise. Each actor brings their unique strengths to the table, creating a dynamic and engaging ensemble that keeps audiences invested from start to finish. While the film is undoubtedly a spectacle-driven blockbuster, it's the humanity and authenticity of its cast that anchor it, making the larger-than-life story feel relatable and real. A conclusion to Meg 3. The Trench cannot simply summarize its events or rehash its action-packed sequences. Instead, it must weave together the themes, characters, and broader implications of the story, offering a reflection on what the film represents both as a standalone piece and as part of a franchise. As the final credits roll, audiences are left with a mixture of adrenaline and contemplation. Meg 3. The Trench is more than a battle against prehistoric predators. It is a confrontation with humanity's endless curiosity and the consequences that follow. The Mariana Trench, with its alien beauty and unfathomable depths, represents a frontier of the unknown. In this film, it serves as both a setting and a metaphor for our relentless pursuit of knowledge no matter the cost. Jonas Taylor's journey encapsulates this theme perfectly. He is not merely an action hero battling gigantic sharks. He is a man grappling with his own limitations and the weight of responsibility. Over this course of the franchise, Jonas has evolved from a traumatized diver to a protector of humanity, driven not by glory but by a sense of duty. His character arc in Meg 3 brings a satisfying closure to this evolution. Here, he isn't just fighting to survive, he is fighting for something larger, to safeguard the delicate balance between humanity and nature. The supporting characters, too, play crucial roles in driving home the film's message. Jing, who has grown into a capable and resourceful individual, symbolizes hope and resilience. Her journey parallels humanity's ability to learn and adapt, to face the consequences of our actions while striving for a better future. Jing brings a much-needed ethical perspective, reminding audiences that the creatures of the trench, however monstrous they may seem, are not villains but victims of human interference. What makes Meg 3 particularly engaging is its refusal to paint a simplistic picture of good versus evil. The megalodons and other prehistoric creatures are terrifying, but they are also awe-inspiring. They are a reminder of a time when nature ruled unchecked, a stark contrast to the world humanity has shaped. The film asks viewers to consider the cost of our dominion over the planet. What have we lost in our pursuit of progress? And what happens when the natural world pushes back? The trench itself becomes a character in the story, a hauntingly beautiful and deadly environment that defies comprehension. It shows bioluminescent creatures and hidden ecosystems, our glimpses of nature's wonders even as they harbor deadly threats. The trench serves as a reminder of how little we truly understand about our own planet. It is a place of mystery, danger, and untapped potential, fitting metaphor for humanity's relationship with the unknown. On a broader level, Meg 3 critiques the intersection of science, greed, and ethics. The antagonists of the story, those who seek to exploit the trench for profit, mirror real-world issues of environmental exploitation and corporate irresponsibility. Their downfall serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing that humanity's hubris can lead to its own undoing. Yet, despite its serious undertones, Meg 3 never loses sight of its primary goal: to entertain. The film's action sequences are breathtaking, its visual IMAX stunning, and its pacing relentless. It is a roller coaster ride of suspense, terror, and exhilaration, delivering exactly what fans of the franchise have come to expect. But beneath the spectacle lies a beating heart, a story about humanity's place in the world and the choices we make. As the story reaches its climax, the stakes feel higher than ever, but the resolution is both satisfying and thought-provoking. Jonas and his team may have triumphed over the immediate threats, but the film leaves lingering questions about what lies ahead. The trench, with its uncharted depths, remains a mystery. It is a place that defies conquest, a reminder that some parts of the natural world are better left untouched. In the end, Meg 3, The Trench is more than just a sequel. It is a meditation on the unknown, a celebration of human resilience, and a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition. It is a film that not entertains and provokes thought in equal measure, leaving audiences with a sense of wonder and respect for the world around them. This cinematic journey to the depths of the ocean may be over, but its sea themes resonate long after the screen fades to black. It challenges us to look inward, to consider the impact of our actions, and to remember that the greatest mysteries of all may still lie hidden in the uncharted waters of our imagination.